This podcast is sponsored by IQ Bar.
Hi, I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. Millions of people rely on our protein bars and hydration mixes to win their day. Turns out Thomas Keller, Michelin star chef of the French Laundry, is one of them. We've teamed up with Chef Keller to craft a bar and hydration mix that marry world-class flavor with exceptional nutrition. Our special edition salted caramel chip bar delivers all the decadence of a fine dining dessert plus protein minus sugar and carbs. And our zero sugar yuzu mango hydration mix packs an authentic citrusy punch and a mental boost from lion's mane and magnesium. The best part? 10% of sales go directly to Chef Keller's nonprofit that supports aspiring young chefs. Great taste, great nutrition, great mission. Total no-brainer.
Go to IQBar.com today and enter promo code KELLER20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. That's IQBAR.com, promo code KELLER20.
You have big dreams of losing weight and creating a healthy, joyful life. But you find yourself craving sugar, caught up in what the scale says, and diet hopping. Dieting is the old way of losing weight. And the good news is I'm going to give you a new way of eating so you can ditch diets for good and build a healthy relationship with real food. My name is Megan Olson, certified nutrition practitioner, creator of Skinny Fitalicious, and your host of the Dish on Diets show. Hello, friends. Today we are discussing the number one question I receive from women as a nutritionist, helping midlife women lose weight sustainably, heal their relationship with food, and get out of the all or nothing mindset. The question I always receive is, Megan, I'm eating clean and I'm not losing weight. Or sometimes it's, Megan, I'm eating healthy. Why am I not losing weight? Or sometimes it's, I eat low carb and I'm not losing weight. Megan, why am I not losing weight? I'm eating all healthy foods. I don't understand. I eat clean. I'm not losing weight. Why am I not losing weight? So if you're eating a healthy diet but not losing weight, it is no doubt frustrating because you feel like you are doing the right thing. You're eating nutrient-dense foods, and that seems right when it comes to weight loss. Like if the goal is to lose weight and to get healthier, I should be eating healthy foods. That seems to make sense. But here's the thing, that's actually not true. Eating healthy foods does not actually equal weight loss. Is it great for weight loss? Yeah, it's also great for your health, but eating healthy foods does not equal weight loss. And I think in a lot of people's minds, this is a misconception that they have. They think eating healthy foods means I should just be at a healthy weight. So while you feel like eating healthy foods is the solution to weight loss, it actually might be sabotaging you. And I have seen many midlife women who are weight loss clients of mine. I've been doing this for 11 years, and they were sabotaging themselves with this clean eating mindset and not losing a pound. And I'm going to explain to you why that is today in more details. Because while eating clean, eating nutrient-dense foods is good for your health, no doubt about that, losing body fat requires a calorie deficit, and you can eat all healthy foods, but you can still be consuming more calories than your body actually needs. So if you have more weight on your body than you feel comfortable with, then your energy balance is off. You are still consuming more than your body needs. So I'm going to circle back to the calorie piece of this in a minute because there's more important information to talk about first before we talk about the calorie piece. Because your mindset in relationship with food is the very first thing I want to hone in on here. This thinking that there is a right way of eating and a wrong way of eating is not accurate. And this is a mistake a lot of people make when they're trying to lose weight. There is no right way of eating. There are nutrition principles that everybody should be following. There's no one right diet. There's no one right way of eating. There are nutrients you should be hitting and aiming for to help your health and to help you be at a healthy weight. But the only right diet or right way of eating is what is right for you. And that is different for everybody. I think a lot of people are kind of like out there searching, what's the right diet? What's the right way of eating? There is no right way. There are nutritional principles. So if you have this like right or wrong thinking with food, you are still in a dieter's mindset, and that mindset will sabotage you in weight loss. And it will sabotage you in weight maintenance because you have a bad relationship with food. Like you start a diet with a mentality of being good, which to you means only healthy foods and no fun foods. So you cut out everything, try to be strict with your diet, and then at some point it all falls apart. You feel like a failure, you feel guilty, and round you go. That is what having a poor relationship with food looks like. You have foods in your mind that you would never eat while dieting, and you have different foods you would eat in maintenance. So you're always like in this cycle of losing and regaining weight, and you have a tug of war with certain foods. Usually that tug of war is around nutrient void foods, fun foods. And you haven't quite learned yet that fun foods can still fit into a balanced diet when you're hitting your nutrients. And that should be the goal for anyone listening today, having a balanced diet and getting out of this dichotomous thinking of there's good foods and bad foods and right foods and wrong foods and right diets and wrong diets. Eating different when you diet versus when you're not dieting. All of that kind of mentality, if you have any of that, that's all or nothing diet mentality that you've got to throw in the trash, because none of it applies and it's going to sabotage you in weight loss and in weight maintenance. So no food is good, no food is bad. Like, are you a good person because you eat a salad? No. Are you a bad person because you ate a slice of cake? No. It is your overall dietary pattern that matters. And are you hitting those nutritional principles that everybody should be aiming for? What are you eating most of the time? What does your caloric consumption over like the last 3 months look like? Are you hitting your protein and fiber goals? Are you consuming enough fruits and vegetables, getting some omega-3s and eating within your caloric needs? If you are, then there is plenty of room to fit in fun stuff like pizza, ice cream, chips, cake, eating out, etc. But what I have observed with many of my midlife clients is they are in this all or nothing mentality with food. They have this right or wrong thinking and a poor relationship with food, and then they're trying to diet and eat clean, and they're getting zero weight loss results because they are so strict with how they eat and how they view food. So when some woman comes to me and tells me, Megan, I'm eating healthy and I'm not losing weight, or Megan, I eat clean and I'm not losing weight, to me as a nutritionist who's been doing this for a long time, it's a red flag to me that that woman likely has an all or nothing mentality with food, and that mentality is causing them to periodically overeat certain foods that they try to avoid or try to restrict. And that overeating pattern is keeping them stuck because they are overeating those foods that they struggle with periodically. So on average, their caloric intake is actually much higher than they realize. In their mind, they eat healthy foods most of the time, but they don't really realize that their all or nothing mentality, their poor relationship with food, and potentially using food to distract from their emotions is causing an excess of calories periodically. So it's keeping them at maintenance and or potentially keeping them at like gaining weight. And this is why I always say these are the type of things that must be fixed before trying to be in a calorie deficit phase. Before you expect weight loss, before you attempt to be in a calorie deficit and diet, you have to fix these things. Dieting will just make these things worse. Calorie counting will make these problems worse. So the mindset of I eat healthy foods means nothing to me as a nutritionist, because mentally you still have this all or nothing mentality. You still have a poor relationship with food, or you use food to distract yourself from your emotions. If all those things are going on, then it really doesn't matter that you're eating health promoting foods. I mean, yeah, that's great, but you still have all these other issues, right? Because it's really your mindset that is creating the overconsumption of calories periodically, keeping you stuck and not losing weight. Honestly, I see this pattern so frequently with my clients. You can eat all the healthy foods in the world, but if you are periodically overeating the foods you struggle with, then that is why you are not losing weight or potentially why you're gaining weight. And that is also why you need to fix the root cause of what's going on. And many women I speak to are really not aware that those are the root causes. So they're kind of like scratching their heads and are confused. Like, I eat healthy foods. Why isn't anything happening? Well, this is why. You have cracks in your foundation. You have cracks in the way of thinking about food and your relationship with food. And you have to fix how you see food before you can actually fix weight loss. Right? Fix the foundation of your house before you move into your house. Now, circling back to the calorie deficit piece I was referring to earlier, it is never as simple as calories in, calories out. But there are a lot of people in this world who think if they just eat healthy foods that they should naturally be at a good, healthy body weight. That is not true. You can still be eating more energy than what your body needs while you're eating healthy foods. I have seen this a lot with my midlife weight loss clients who come work with me. Some of them are eating health promoting foods, which is great. And some of them do have a good relationship with food, but they're still confused why they have excess weight and they're missing the calorie piece of the weight loss equation. They don't quite understand that they are not in a deficit and that they are still eating at maintenance or even in a calorie surplus. So if we think about certain healthy foods like salmon, avocado, nuts, seeds, nut butters, olive oil, butter, these foods have a lot of calories. Like 2 tablespoons of olive oil has 238 calories. That's a lot of calories for 2 tablespoons. And most people don't even pay attention to the amount of oil they're cooking with. And people don't realize like cooking spray, that has calories. So a lot of times we tend to overlook some of these calories because we assume it's a healthy food. And so therefore we assume the calories don't count. I actually did a video on olive oil and the calories in olive oil last month. And there were hundreds of people in the comments saying that the olive oil is healthy and that we should not be worried about the calories in olive oil and that I'm a terrible nutritionist for pointing out the calories in olive oil. And then there were also people making claims that none of the olive oil gets absorbed by the food. It's only absorbed by the pan, and therefore you're not eating any of those calories. Yeah, that's all false. None of those things are true. And truthfully, as a nutritionist, it's kind of scary that people actually in real life believe those kind of things because none of it's true. It's all false. Peanut butter is also another food that is good for us, but it's also very calorically dense. 2 tablespoons, 188 calories. Most people are measuring peanut butter with tablespoons. And when you do that, you are very likely eating more calories in peanut butter than you realize. So weighing it out in grams is going to give you the most accurate calories that you're consuming. But 188 calories for 2 tablespoons really is not that much food. Very easy to be over consuming that, just like, avocado, nuts and seeds, all very easy to overconsume. And quite a few of my clients are snacking on nuts throughout the day, grabbing handfuls of nuts, and they're just unaware that they're eating 500 calories to 1,000 calories of nuts here and there. And I've even seen some clients adding MCT oil or butter to their coffee because somewhere on the internet or on social media, they heard that this is some kind of magical thing for fat burning, but it's not magical for fat burning because you still need a calorie deficit. And if you're not losing weight, this is why, because you're adding 200 calories to your coffee. You're adding to your caloric intake daily. So when we start weighing foods out on a food scale and tracking them, it can be very eye-opening to see how very little the portion size of some of these really healthy foods are. I know in my own 80-pound weight loss journey, this was incredibly eye-opening because I had literally no idea what I was eating and how unbalanced my meals were that I was eating and how many calories I was eating until I really started tracking my food. I honestly had no idea. And it was so eye-opening. And this, in my opinion, is why quite a few people are overweight. They think eating healthy foods equals weight loss, or they think that eating clean equals being at a good body weight, or eating low carb equals weight loss. Eating healthy foods does not equal weight loss. Eating clean does not equal weight loss. Eating low carb does not equal weight loss. While eating healthy foods and nutrient-dense foods is great and will keep you fuller than eating donuts all day long, you still need to be eating in a calorie deficit to lose weight. Same with low carb. You still need to be eating in a calorie deficit to lose weight, even if you follow a low carb lifestyle. Same with fasting. You still need to eat in a calorie deficit, even if you like to fast. So whether or not you believe it or realize it, calories always count to your metabolism, whether or not you count calories. And energy balance does dictate your body fat. Calories are simply a measurement of energy. And you can eat fast food in a calorie deficit and lose weight. You can eat Twinkies in a calorie deficit and lose weight. I shared a study a long time ago on this podcast on somebody who actually ate Twinkies and lost body fat in a calorie deficit and improved their health markers. I mean, tons of studies have been done on this in various ways of eating and, different types of foods and losing weight. And all the studies repeatedly show that as long as you have that caloric deficit, an individual will lose body fat regardless of the type of eating or the type of diet. Now, we do know that protein is key for losing body fat and managing hunger and having more energy and staying fuller and more satiated, and the same with dietary fiber. Dietary fiber is an incredible nutrient for health, energy, and fullness. So we do know protein and fiber are like some of the best things. And those are principles of nutrition that everybody should be following anyways for a healthy, balanced diet. But a lot of times we're kind of on the search for like the best diet or the healthiest thing, and we're not realizing that calories are part of that equation. And that's why when clients are kind of beating themselves up for not eating perfectly healthy foods 100% of the time, or they get upset with themselves because they ate too much birthday cake on their kid's birthday. I have to coach them that the goal of being healthy and losing weight is not to eat like a clean eating robot every day. The goal is to create a doable, realistic, and practical way of eating that has healthy foods that helps them achieve those nutritional principles that they need to be aiming for, plus includes satisfying foods and fun foods so that they can sustain their way of eating until they're 85 plus years old. It's called balance. And it takes work to create that balance. It's easy to follow the rules of some silly diet so that you can just shut off your brain and not have to think about what you're actually doing and not think about where you're getting your protein from and where you're getting your fiber from and are you getting enough. It's easy to follow some, silly rules of some diet plan, but you are a ticking time bomb when you do that. At some point, you will go back to the foods that you cut out and restricted, and you will overeat them. Restrict and overeat. That is a cycle many dieters are in because they have a bad relationship with food and have an all or nothing mentality with their diet. Part of that poor relationship and all or nothing mentality stems from not understanding and accepting that all foods can fit. You're trying to be perfect all the time with how you eat, which is not a realistic expectation or a satisfying one long term. No one eats perfectly all the time. That's an all or nothing mentality that a lot of dieters are in. Being super strict with your diet is not the goal. So when I'm coaching my clients, I'm helping them refocus their thinking so they're not mentally consumed with all the things they think they're eating wrong, but rather focusing on, are they hitting those nutritional principles? Are they adding nutrients like protein and fiber? Are they adding fruits and vegetables? And having balanced meals and understanding what their energy needs are. And are those meals satisfying to them so they're not scrounging for something else because they ate something that was too boring? That said, you do have to take the time up front to fix that foundational piece before losing weight to create that balanced way of eating that works for you. And you do need to understand that calories are part of the equation if you're trying to lose weight. And in my experience working one-on-one with clients, I have seen them over consuming high calorie foods that are healthy foods and just not recognizing it and not realizing it, grabbing handfuls of nuts and seeds throughout the day to snack on and not being aware of the calories in their cooking oil and their dressings and their cheeses, the different types of proteins that they're eating that are usually higher fat type proteins like bacon, spoonfuls of peanut butter. So when I do nutrition audits with clients, what I always find is the majority of their calories are coming from fat sources. Fat has 9 calories per gram, carbs and protein have 4. If most of your calories are coming from fat sources, it's going to be very easy for you to be over consuming calories, which is contributing to you having excess body fat. Typically, I see very little lean protein and very little fiber. So if your macronutrients are out of balance, you can very easily be over consuming calories periodically and just not realizing it because you're hungry. And I see this with midlife clients that I work with all the time. They have like this assumption that because the foods that they are eating are nutrient dense, that somehow the calories don't matter, but they do matter. Energy balance is what dictates your weight. And I think for a lot of midlife women, there's a lot of denial that calories play a role, especially during perimenopause and menopause. Calories still play a role and they still count during midlife. The only way your organs are functioning and keeping you alive is through energy. Your body may not be utilizing very much energy. You may be more tired. You may be sleeping poorly, which results in you moving less throughout the day and eating more food because you're tired. And you may be moodier. Or you may have stronger emotional reactions to things, leading you to self-soothe with food or maybe even alcohol. You may be, like I said, moving less throughout the day and sitting more because you're more tired, you're moodier, you're stressed, you're emotional, right? So stress, lack of sleep, mood, emotional reactions, just feeling like not like yourself because you're going through this transition, all those things influence behaviors with food. It influences what we do with exercise and movement and how we eat, right? So it's not that your body has like shut down and stopped burning calories. It's that these things have influenced your behaviors with food, exercise, and movement. So just the other day, I had a client say to me in our coaching call that she really thought it was her hormones that caused her to gain 10 pounds when she first started working with me. But now that she's been working with me for 3 months, she said, Megan, I realize it's not my hormones. It was my lack of protein. It was my lack of like getting steps throughout the day. And she really realized that she was snacking a lot more because she was under consuming lean protein, which was driving her calories up, right? So, this is the common thing I see like over and over again. It's a pattern that I just repeatedly see so often with my midlife clients. And this is why I think it's so important for women who are struggling with perimenopause and menopause, hormonal issues. Get help with a doctor, because if your hormones are impacting your sleep and your mood and your emotions and just your ability to like live your life, then it's going to impact your behavior with food, movement, and exercise. You do not need to suffer transitioning into this new phase of life. I think I've mentioned this before on this podcast, but menopause.org is a great resource to find a professional near you who can help you work on those things. And sometimes you're going to have to, try out a couple different professionals before you find one that actually works, right? But these are the behavioral patterns I see with my midlife clients repeatedly. And chances are high, if you're a midlife woman struggling with weight gain, these are some of the things that are preventing you from losing weight or causing you to be in a constant cycle of gaining weight. You might have been able to get away with these behaviors before, but not anymore. It's kind of like somebody who has a heart attack. You can get away with certain, habits and ways of eating and ways of exercise until you can't get away with them anymore. And then suddenly, boom, one day you have a heart attack. It all catches up with you. And it's the same thing with weight gain during midlife. It's just the time frame that it just kind of catches up with you. And the average midlife person actually, and this is men included, the average person gains somewhere between 2 to 3 pounds a year. And that doesn't sound like very much weight year over year, but if you look at it over 10 years, you've just now gained 20 to 30 pounds. So the first 10 pounds you gain, you may kind of dismiss it and just kind of squeeze yourself into your clothes or buy a few larger items. But then when the 20 or 30 pounds happen, you sort of feel like your body is working against you. And oh my God, what happened to me? It's not really that your body is working against you. It's just been this slow drip of weight gain over time. And this is the reality of how most midlife women gain weight. It's a slow drip over time, and you don't realize it's happening until bam, it really catches up with you, kind of like a heart attack. Now, I do have some clients who have gained weight in shorter periods of time, usually because of extreme dieting. They were on a very, very low calorie diet like Optavia or some 800 calorie diet, and they lost weight quickly and came out of that diet swinging in the other direction of overeating because they were so deprived of food. And that overeating, right, caused weight gain very quickly. And oftentimes their metabolism does downregulate with those kind of crash diets. But generally speaking, outside of that, most women who I've worked with have gained weight slowly over time, just not recognizing it. And, if it's going to come on slowly, that means it's going to come off slowly. That's kind of the bad news, right? So, but I always kind of look at it that slow weight loss is the best kind, because slow weight loss is going to set you up for keeping it off. Okay. So bottom line though, is if you are eating clean or eating healthy, but you're not losing weight, it's because you are not in a calorie deficit. And your job is to figure out why you're not in a calorie deficit. You need to be eating in a calorie deficit for your body in order to lose body fat. And the balance of your macronutrients matters for your health, matters for your metabolism, matters to keep you full while in a calorie deficit. And it really just matters all of the time too, to be healthy. If your protein and your fiber particularly are low and most of your calories are coming from fat sources, you may need to adjust your macronutrient balance, because that will cause an overconsumption of calories. Eating healthy foods or eating clean doesn't automatically mean you get to eat an unlimited amount of food. I think a lot of people think that I'm eating healthy, I can just eat as much as I want. No, you can't. You still have to eat within your caloric needs, right? So I also want to remind you that the scale is not always a good measurement of whether or not you're losing body fat. So taking measurements, best way to assess if you're losing body fat. In fact, measurements are always going to show progress before the scale. So that's a benefit of making sure you're taking measurements. If you are a midlife woman who is trying to lose body fat, it's going to take time for that scale to catch up with you, especially if you are under muscled and you haven't been strength training, you haven't been eating adequate protein. It really is going to depend on your body composition, your diet history, your activity level. So there's many factors that's going to play into what's going to happen with the scale, but don't get frustrated and upset if the scale isn't doing what you expect it to do. Take measurements. Measurements always show progress before the scale does. And remember, body composition is what matters for your health. You may be at a higher scale weight, but be a size 4 or size 6 or a size 8 or whatever. So don't always think that just because you're at a specific weight on the scale that means you're healthy. It does not. Health is not a scale weight. Body composition is often misunderstood by many medical professionals and even doctors. So make sure you are taking measurements. I have seen, with men, typically their scale numbers will decrease right away. And that, in my mind, is because men have more muscle naturally than women do. So for women who are, especially in midlife, you need to be assessing like all of your data, not just the scale by itself, because you could be missing that you're making progress if you're only looking at the scale and then making yourself feel hopeless, only looking at the scale and then wanting to give up. Like I said, you could be a lower number on the scale and still be skinny fat. Having a high body fat percentage, even at a low scale weight, puts you at risk for high inflammation and developing chronic diseases. Remember, health is not a scale weight, and the right scale weight for you might actually be higher than you realize because of muscle and because you need muscle as you age. Now, additional reminder that just because you've been tracking calories does not mean you are in fact in a calorie deficit. Just because you got a calorie deficit number from an app, from a coach, from an online calculator, it does not mean that is a calorie deficit for your body. I spoke about this in my last podcast episode 140. Why am I not losing weight in a calorie deficit? If you've been stuck for a while, I recommend you listen to that episode where I discuss 10 reasons why you may not be seeing weight loss in a calorie deficit. And they're all common reasons that I've seen repeatedly in my 11 years of doing this. Ultimately, if you have been struggling with losing weight for a while, doing this on your own, it's time to get somebody to help you. I think we are all very biased when it comes to our own habits and behaviors. We think we're doing better than we are. And it's really easy to miss a lot of like little things that you are doing or not doing and not see them for yourself. I see this honestly, guys, so frequently with clients who, when they begin working with me, you know, they're always kind of trying to tell me what they think the problem is. And I'm like, okay, we'll see, you know, we'll start collecting data and we'll see what's going on. But once we start working together, we start to see that there were all these other things that were really out of alignment that they just didn't realize or they didn't know. And either it stems from misunderstanding things about nutrition and fat loss, or they just were not allowing themselves to see what they were doing, or their relationship with food was not really good, or they had an all or nothing mentality, or all of the above. I mean, you would never try to like fix your own car if it broke down unless you're a mechanic. I mean, you would just take your car to an expert. You wouldn't spend years and years and decades trying to research and Google and go on social media and figure it out on your own how to fix your car. You wouldn't do that. And just like a car, you know, it's an investment to like fix your car. It's an investment to, you know, buy a car. It's also an investment to work with somebody like me who's a nutritionist to help you, but it's your health. And, you know, I don't know why we would think that, you know, a car is something that's necessary, but our health isn't. That doesn't make any sense to me. An expert can help you figure out what's been going on. If you've been struggling for years and years and decades, I mean, why keep perpetuating that? That doesn't make any sense. An expert's going to help you figure out what's going on, design a plan for you, and give you the accountability and coaching you need to focus on the right things that are going to help you reach your goals so you're no longer spinning your wheels. And, you know, I offer free consultations. You're always welcome to schedule a consultation with me to discuss your specific situation. The consultation is an assessment, just like you would do with a doctor or a dentist the first time you see them. You know, you don't like email a dentist or, you know, message them on Instagram and say, hey, I have this toothache, you know, how can you help me? You don't do that. You go in for a consultation and actually talk to them, and then they talk to you about like what the protocol and the plan would be. It's the same thing when you come have a consultation with me. We're going to discuss your diet and exercise history, your mindset, your relationship with food, and what areas you feel like you're struggling with. And based on that initial assessment, I'm going to provide you with my feedback on what I see needs to be worked on for you to reach your goals and how I can help you with that if you choose to work with me. That consultation, that assessment is at zero cost to you, and there is no obligation for you to sign up and work with me. So you have nothing to lose by scheduling a consultation with me. I'm always like confused when people are like, I don't want to waste your time. And I'm like, that tells me that you just think that you're not worth it. Like if you don't have the ability to spend 30 minutes on a consultation with a healthcare professional like me, that just tells me you don't think it's worth it to you, or that you're worth it. So, which is kind of sad, but I think that's where a lot of women are at. They just don't feel like they're worthy of that. But I offer those for free. I don't have a lot of them, so sometimes it can be tricky getting in to see me, but that link is in the show notes for you if you're interested, picking my brain, getting that assessment from me to see what I am going to share with you based on your particular situation. And I think for some people that can just be helpful, like talking through like what is going on and what somebody from the outside sees needs to be worked on. Okay. Because sometimes we, like I said, we're biased and we don't always see the things that, you know, other people see. Cause like I said, there's a lot of the same patterns I see with clients over and over again. Now, before we wrap up, I do want to remind you again that healthy eating does not equal losing weight, and clean eating does not equal losing weight, and fasting does not equal losing weight. And, you know, whatever we're doing with our diet does not equal losing weight. Do not assume that, because you still need a calorie deficit, and calories count whether or not you count them. And you should not be trying to be in a calorie deficit. You should not be trying to diet. You should not be trying to track all your food and be perfect. If you have cracks in your foundation, if you have a bad relationship with food, an all or nothing mentality, you beat yourself up and feel guilty over eating certain foods, you see foods as good or bad, your diet is good or bad, that's all cracks in your foundation. That stuff needs to be addressed before losing weight. Hope that helps, and I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, if you enjoyed this podcast, you have to come check out my free weight loss class. It's the 5 steps to lasting weight loss, how hormones impact weight loss, and the truth about lasting weight loss without relying on willpower, workouts, or deprivation. Click the link in the show notes to watch that free class today. And if you are a woman over 35 with 20 to 50 or more pounds to lose, schedule a free weight loss breakthrough session with me after you watch that class. And let's talk about your 20 to 50 or more pound weight loss plan.